Hello, everybody, and welcome to our webinar. The topic of today's webinar is how you can use your RRSP to invest in mortgages. And not everybody knows what mortgage investing is about. Somebody got an invitation that I sent out, and they said, "Well, I don't have a mortgage." I said, well, okay, this isn't, we're not soliciting investors here. We're looking to see, to provide people an alternative investment option because most people are either putting their money into things like GICs at the bank, or they could be buying stocks and bonds or mutual funds. But not everybody knows about mortgage investing. The people who do love it often. And for many years, I've been a mortgage broker for about 22 years. People are asking me, David, let me know when you have some good mortgages to invest in. We want to invest in mortgages. So I'll tell you more about that. We have three presenters today. Myself, David Grossman. I'm a mortgage broker and a dealing representative, and I'll tell you more about what that means. People know what a mortgage broker is. Not everybody knows what a dealing representative is. We have Edward Hallinan joining us as well. Edward is a colleague. He's also a dealing representative, and he's employed by an exempt market dealer by the name of Waverly Corporate Financial Services. He's with us. He's going to be talking about Waverly and what are private investments. And we're also happy to have with us the president of Ginkgo MIC. MIC stands for Mortgage Investment Corporation, and you're going to learn in the next over the next hour. We are aiming to finish this. I don't see any reason why. We'll finish within 1 hour, and we'll have time for your questions as well. So let me start by sharing my screen, and I'm going to try and get this PowerPoint up on the screen. You can let me know if you can see it in just a moment there. Can you guys see the slides? Okay. Okay, great. So the first question is why invest in mortgages and how to become a private mortgage investor. So why do people like mortgage investing? Well, first of all, everybody knows a mortgage. Most people will know a mortgage is a loan that is secured buy real estate. And most people think of a mortgage, they think of the mortgage that they have on their property. If they buy a property and they get a mortgage from, Scotiabank or TD Bank or something like that. But sometimes people don't qualify for a mortgage at the bank and they need to find alternative mortgage providers. Why don't people qualify at the bank? Well, sometimes they don't prove income to the satisfaction of the bank. We all know that banks are very strict when it comes to lending money, and especially if you're self-employed. If you have a credit issue, well, forget about it. But even self-employed, it's very difficult often for self-employed borrowers because when you go to the bank, the first thing the bank says is, well, show me your 2 years tax returns and your notice of assessments. Well, self-employed people often don't look great on paper because they are minimizing the taxes they report, and they're writing off a lot of different expenses, or maybe they're keeping the money in their company and they have good retained earnings, but they're not paying themselves a lot, so they don't look great on paper. So that's why there are alternative mortgage solution providers, and sometimes people need to go to private lenders where they will pay a higher rate. It's often for a short term sort of a thing. It's a bridge. Let's say, for example, let's say somebody buys a property and their plan is to sell their current house, and they're hoping that in buying the new property, they're going to sell their house to get the equity out so that they can use it for the down payment. But not everything always works according to plan. And if they can't sell their house in time, they could get stuck with two houses. Well, guess what? The bank looks at that and they say, well, there's too much debt. Sorry, we're not going to lend on this. Um, so there's a lot of different types of scenarios where borrowers sometimes look to private lenders. Um, and RRSP eligibility, well, yeah, you can invest in mortgages and you can use your RSP and your TFSA to do that. We'll talk about that more. So this is my information I'm putting on the screen as a mortgage broker. I'm not just doing that because I want you to call me, although I do want you to call me. I'm doing that because I'm wearing two hats. Okay. I'm wearing a hat as a mortgage broker, and I'm also wearing a hat as a dealing representative who offers private investments. And in doing, when you offer private investments, you have to have a license to do that. It's called a dealing representative license. And so for now, in this presentation, I'm wearing the hat of a mortgage broker. Okay. So now, why do I like private mortgage lending? Because I am also a private mortgage investor and I like to invest in mortgages. What do I like about investing in mortgages? First thing is, if you're investing in mortgages on single family homes, it's not very difficult to determine what is the value of a property. You can look at comparable sales in the neighborhood. You can order an appraisal at the expense of the borrower, and you can choose the appraiser, by the way, and you can see what are homes selling for in the area. It's not rocket science. Go to the stock market and try and determine what is really the value of a stock. Does anybody have any idea? Um, when you have stocks and bonds on the stock market, they go up and down, often with the mood, the fears of the public, and they can change quite a bit in overnight, depending on the news, depending on what's happening in the economy, and your stock portfolio can be dramatically impacted overnight. So alternative investments like mortgages as mortgage investment is a way to diversify, to balance out your portfolio and give you an investment which could give you more predictable returns. Because when you lend money on a mortgage, you fix a rate. So you could say, well, I'm going to lend you money and it's going to be at a rate of 10%. So you know that as a lender, you can expect to receive a 10% return on your money as long as the borrower pays. That's what you're going to get. So it's more predictable, as well as being easier to assess the value. The investments are relatively short term in nature, so you can usually get your money out in 1 or 2 years. And there's some other metrics which we're going to talk about that are very important for mortgage investing. How to determine if it's a good investment. Here's some of the highlights, some of the things, the most important thing that you need to keep in mind. The first one is called LTV, loan to value. So if somebody's looking for a private mortgage, or if I'm shopping for a private mortgage for a mortgage client, one of the first things I tell the lender, what's the LTV? What's the loan to value? In other words, let's say a property we assume is worth $1 million. And the borrower is coming to you and they say, I need to borrow $650,000. Well, $650,000 as a percentage of the property value is 65%. That's the loan to value. That's a very important number because you have a buffer of $350,000 there in case the market dips, in case the borrower doesn't pay. You have to take action. You have to sell the property. You have to pay a real estate agent to sell the property. So you never lend to 100% of the property value. You want something that is lower than that. 65 is a good number. Many lenders will go to 70, 75, and some will go even higher depending on the strength of the borrower. There's other factors too when we're talking about loan to value. We're looking about the location of the property and the marketability of the property. Are there any issues? Is it in the middle of a renovation? Does it need serious renovations? Or is it in good shape? Could somebody move into it tomorrow, a family, or could you rent it out to somebody tomorrow? So the condition of the property, location are also very important when we're talking about things like loan to value and we're talking about the property itself. Now, the other thing is this a first or a second mortgage? So if there's one mortgage of $650,000, using our example, then that's just a first mortgage. Now, let's say that somebody comes to you and they say, we have a property, it's worth $1 million. We have a $500,000 first mortgage on it with a bank, as an example. Maybe one of the homeowners, somebody in the family, maybe lost a job, got sick, something happened. I mean, this is life, things are unpredictable. And they say, okay, we believe our prospects of being reemployed soon are very good. Maybe we have a job offer, but we haven't started work yet. And we've been off work for 6 months, 9 months, I don't know how long, and we've run up some debt. We need some cash to pay off our credit cards, to consolidate some debt. So they say we need to borrow 150,000. Well, you have a first mortgage of 500. There's a second mortgage request of 150. So the loan to value is 65%. Still 500 plus 150. $650,000 is the total amount of debt on a value of $1 million. So again, this is a 65% loan to value, but the second mortgage it's a higher risk than being in first position, because if there was a default, the first mortgagee gets paid first and the second mortgagee gets paid second. So it's a little bit higher risk, so you can earn a higher return by lending your money on second mortgages. Keep that in mind. What kind of rates and returns are we talking about? Well, we'll get to it in a second. It's the last point on the slide, so we might as well continue to go in order. Property type, condition, appraisal. We talked a little bit about that. What is the condition of the property? We're assuming here, we're talking today mainly about straightforward residential properties. Sometimes I arrange mortgages on commercial properties. They're quite a different animal versus residential. People need a place to live, first and foremost. So it's lower risk if you're lending on residential properties. Sometimes a commercial property, I've seen, you drive by a shopping mall or something, maybe a strip plaza, even in the city of Toronto. And if it's on the wrong corner or there's parking's not great, it's a little bit higher risk. Sometimes a loan on a commercial property can be a good opportunity, but today we're talking mainly about residential mortgages because they are lower risk, and that is also what Inco is into. Again, you'll learn more about that very shortly. Um, the strength of the borrower. So now we're talking about the borrower now, and the borrower, the main things that we would want to know about any borrower are the borrower's income and the borrower's credit. Now, in private lending, those two things are less important than the property itself. Banks are what they call covenant lenders, meaning that they are first and foremost interested to know about the strength of the borrower. Whereas private lenders will overlook certain things, with regard to the borrower situation, like the example I gave earlier. Well, the borrower may have lost their job, and maybe they recently just became self-employed. They have a good chance of success because they've been working in the same industry for a number of years, but now they're doing it on their own. Well, you go to a bank, banks can, like I said before, bank says, show me 2 years tax returns and notice of assessments. Well, you may have be only self-employed for 1 year, and you can't show that to the bank. So forget about it. They're not going to lend you the money. So private lenders are going to be more flexible when it comes to things like income and credit. Again, that things happen in life. If you run into a problem, it's possible that your credit can get bruised up. What we want to know is, what are you doing to repair that, right? Because we don't want to lend to somebody who's like in the middle of being chased by all kinds of creditors, unless we know that we could use those funds to pay off the creditors, clear off the credit cards, and that the person has a good chance of their going forward to make all their mortgage payments and rehabilitate their credit, providing a valuable service to people sometimes. So it's interesting to note, private lenders' main concern is the property, still want to know about the borrower, the income, the credit, but not as important as the property itself, whereas the banks are the other way around. Okay. Now, the other thing you need to know as a private lender is, what is the exit strategy? How are you going to get your money back? Okay, so if somebody is newly employed, they have some credit card debt, maybe they're not past probation yet, and the bank says, well, sorry, you have to be permanent and past probation. Private lender says, okay, we're willing to accept a little bit more risk. You have a job now, you have this credit card debt, your credit is maybe a little bruised up because you were, having trouble meeting some of your obligations, but now you're employed, and we're gonna lend this money. We're gonna pay off the credit cards. You're going to be rehabilitated. You rehabilitate your credit. Your credit score is going to go up once those cards are paid off, and we know that you will be earning enough income to refinance, let's say, in a year or 6 months, and pay and get out of the private mortgage, because private mortgage rates are much higher than the banks, and it's not something you want to be into long term. And as a lender, you want to know that there's an exit and you're going to get your money back. So exit strategy is important. You have to know that. Rate and fee. Well, what can you earn on a private mortgage? You can earn anywhere from 8% up to 12% or even more, depending on the amount of risk that you're willing to take on. Okay, and you can also charge fees if you're a private lender. You can charge a lender fee. Now, what happens if the borrower, the mortgagor, doesn't pay? Um, well, if you have loaned your own money and you're dealing directly with a borrower, you've you need to take action. You may need to hire a lawyer, and also the loan needs to be administered, meaning, people need mortgage statements, they may want to pay out their mortgage. So there's some effort. It's not rocket science, but if there is trouble, you definitely will need to hire a lawyer. Now, if you do go out of pocket for certain expenses, like hiring a lawyer, you will get to charge that back when the mortgage is paid out, eventually, when the property is sold. But so that's why you want to make sure there's a reasonable buffer in case things go wrong, that you're going to be covered. Um, Using your RRSPs, TFSAs, or other registered accounts to invest in mortgages. We typically do this with Olympia Trust. They are a trustee, and sometimes you can open account, a TFSA account or an RRSP account, and you can invest in private mortgages with them. Sometimes people have money that's sitting in a mutual fund with a bank, and they say, we're not happy with the performance. I mean, this last year's been pretty good in the stock market, but is it going to continue that way? I don't know. Anyway, we never tell people take all your money and put it into one basket. But again, diversification is important. And sometimes people say to us, we are not happy with our mutual funds, as an example, or our GICs earning. My wife just renewed a small GIC. She's getting like a little over 2%. Um, and you can transfer the funds from the RSP. You convert it to cash, and you move it into the Olympia RSP or TFSA. You are not triggering a tax event. You do not have to pay tax on it when you pull it out, because you're not pulling it out. You're just moving it over from the registered account to the other registered account. Okay. All right. So how can you find mortgage investment opportunities? Well, you can approach mortgage brokers like me, who will from time to time have mortgage investment opportunities. You can chase down real estate lawyers. Sometimes they're working with the client and the client's closing a transaction and they find themselves short at the last minute and they need a private mortgage. Licensed insolvency trustees, they get calls from people who are saying, I got so much debt, I don't know what to do. And then the trustee says, well, I can refer you to a mortgage broker or a mortgage lender. And if there's equity in the property, maybe you can take out some funds and use that to settle some of the debt. Collection agencies are a good one if you have contacts there, because they're calling people all the time who need to raise money to pay off debts if they own property. They will refer from time to time, they will refer the people that they call to mortgage brokers. Or last but not least, you can exempt in a pool of mortgages managed by a very capable firm, and ginkgo is one example of that. And I have a special reason for inviting ginkgo and Henry C from ginkgo on this call. And the reason is that I know their company because as a mortgage broker, I have sent them files over the years and I see how they underwrite. And I know that they're cautious and responsible. And sometimes as a mortgage broker, I may get a decline and I say, oh, well, I would have liked to have an approval, but then I say, well, explain to me the reason. Why did you decline this file? And I learned something. And so I like their approach to lending and investing. And that's why I too am an investor. So so I invest, I have some money invested with Ginkgo, and it's been doing well. It's been in there for a number of years. And I won't steal any more of Henry's thunder, but I'll let him talk to that, but I'm also going to turn it over now to Edward Hallinan from Waverly Financial Corporate Services. And Edward's going to talk about what are private investments, who's Waverly, and then we're going to hand the torch over to Henry after that. And if anybody has questions, please feel free to type them in the comments, and we'll make sure to get to your questions. Edward, the floor is yours.
Thanks, David. Appreciate the introduction. Everyone can hear me okay? I just want to double check. I see some nods. Excellent. Hi, everybody. My name is Edward Hallinan. I am, the technical term is I'm an exempt market dealing representative. I'm based in Calgary. David and I are both registered as exempt market DRs with Waverly Corporate Financial Services. They're an exempt market dealer based in Toronto. David is, of course, focused on the mortgage side of things. I deal with just about everything that we have on the shelf at Waverly, which is mortgage investment corporations and a handful of other alternative investments as well. I'll keep it pretty short. I just wanted to give a brief primer regarding what Waverly does and what we offer. Um, as an investment dealer, we focus on alternative investments, investments outside the usual mutual funds and public stocks or bonds that most Canadians are familiar with. Depending on their age, the average investor is probably weighted 60 to 80% in public equities, or maybe 20 to 40%, the rest of that being in bonds. And while their stock portfolio might be diversified, you might be in hundreds of different public companies, they're all still, that kind of weighting means you're 100% exposed to the volatility of public market sentiment. Now, on the other hand, if you look at the portfolio allocation of ultra high net worth investors or pension funds for that matter, you get a very different picture. David has pulled up a slide here. This is from a group called Tiger 21. They are an investor club, like a networking group. All of their members have at least 10 million 10 million US in investable assets, averaging over 100 million US in assets. Ostensibly, these are the most sophisticated and successful investors in North America. And as part of their membership, every member reports their asset allocation on an annual basis, and Tiger 21 publishes a quarterly report up to date showing the average allocation across the whole investing group. It's over 1,700 members, which is why I wanted David to show us this slide because it really highlights the difference between the average Canadian's allocation and ultra high net worth investors. So we see here public equities only represent a quarter of their average allocation, with the remainder dominated by real estate and private equity. And this isn't the most recent slide. I didn't get a really nice slide to include. It was kind of blurry. I didn't think to do this before today. But the numbers haven't really changed from the following quarter. Private equity has gone up to 30%, real estate and public equity is still about the same. There were some changes in the small slivers of the pie there. If you look at a pension fund, it looks pretty similar to what we see here. Generally, if you have tens of millions of dollars, you're more informed about the alternatives. There's more people knocking on your doors, offering you opportunities. And just by virtue of how much money they have greater access in a lot of ways too. Real estate is not necessarily a securitized investment in their case. The Ontario Teachers Pension Plan can go out and buy a 27-story multifamily apartment building. No problem. That's a little bit out of range for everyday people like us. However, with as little as $5,000 or $10,000, someone could easily buy into a private fund that owns 30 or more apartment buildings, passively benefiting from rental income and over time the growth in the net asset value of the portfolio of buildings. And of course, as an alternative to specific private lending and setting up your own private mortgage, you could be investing in a mortgage investment corporation or another mortgage fund, such as Ginkgo. And then if there are any defaults, you let Henry handle those headaches. You don't have to worry about it. So, as an investment dealer in the private space, our focus at Waverly is finding institutional grade private investments, mostly in the real estate and private equity space, the two big parts of that pie, and making those accessible to retail investors with relatively low minimum investments, and then informing people about the alternatives that are out there and how they can diversify beyond only having mutual funds, only having self-directed public market investments, and getting a bigger piece of this pie. It should be mentioned a big difference between public and private investments is liquidity. With a traditional public stock, You call your broker, you redeem at the current market price, you've got cash in your bank account right away. With alternatives, typically there's minimum lock-in periods or fees to redeem early. It varies depending on the issuer. Typically, there's notice periods ranging from 30 to 90 days. And depending on their liquidity in the fund, they might be able to cash you out sooner. They might not be able to cash you out right away. You might have a longer period of time before you can get access to your funds. Mortgage funds tend to be a little more closer to liquid because they're originating new mortgages. Old mortgages are renewing, coming due. So their portfolio is constantly turning over. So they're a little more liquid than a lot of the other alternatives in the public space. If you're willing to sacrifice liquidity for some portion of your portfolio, you can get lower volatility in alternatives, better cash flow, better security, better protection of principal, and higher risk-adjusted returns. So that's just some of the basics about alternatives in general. If you're here, you're probably more interested in mortgage funds specifically. Right now, Waverly has 4 mortgage funds and mix on our shelf. Returns range anywhere from 6 to 10% annually, paid monthly. Of course, that varies a little bit as interest rates change. They all have different risk profiles, that is to say, different ratios of first to second or even third mortgages, like David talked about regarding loan to value, location, property type, etc. Each fund kind of has a different focus. And when you look at their offering documents, you make sure that the portfolio as a whole aligns with what you're looking for as an investor. And if you want to build a portfolio that explores not only mortgage investing, but passive real estate, private debt funds, funds that lend against medical receivables, even streaming music royalties, Waverly can help you explore the whole alternative investing landscape. So that's just my little short plug for Waverly. David, I'll hand it over to you if you want to introduce Henry.
Sure. Okay, that's very good, Edward. Thanks for that. I'm just going to put my contact information and also Edward's on the screen. If you want to snap a photo of that, so that you can call either one of us afterwards to talk about mortgage investing or Waverly or alternative investing in general. And then I am now going to stop sharing. And Henry, you should be able to share.
Yes, I could. Can
Great,
everyone
thank
see
you.
the screen?
Yes.
Okay, good. Let me just share this. Okay, so welcome everyone, and thank you for your precious time on this cold evening and to spend some time with us. I'm going to just briefly go through what our company does and so that you guys can have a better understanding who we are and to make a better decisions. So we are called Ginkgo Make, and I'm the CEO of the company. I started this about 15 years ago, and it was a long journey. We see the ups and downs of the market, and we see COVID, we see the financial tsunami, and we're still doing really strong the last 15 years. So it's a great thing. So before I start, I just want to give you a brief highlight of our company in a video format. So after this, you should able to understand a lot of our background information. Just a couple minutes here.
In Canada, the real estate market has always been the backbone of our society. Not only does it provide jobs and shelter, but it also creates opportunities for those who seek financial stability and growth. Whether you are pursuing a worry-free retirement dream or looking for a secured investment, investing in real estate has proven to be a very wise choice. Founded in 2011, Ginkgo Mortgage Investment Corporation, Ginkgo MIC, is an established Canada-wide mortgage investment company with over $200 million assets under management. Since inception, Ginkgo Mick has been paying a minimum of 8% annual dividends to investors, making it a reliable source of monthly cash flow to meet investors' financial needs. Ginkgo Mick has a very simple business model. The fund lends investors money to homeowners and secures them with real estate properties. In return, it collects monthly mortgage interests and distributes them to investors. As of 2025, Ginkgo has paid investors over $60 million in dividends.
During the 2009 financial crisis, I saw the economy tank and the stock market crumble. Many people suffered significant losses and their retirement dreams were ruined. However, despite the stock market volatility, the Canadian real estate remained very stable. I realized a well-diversified investment portfolio should include real estate investment. But there are not too many choices for people to choose from. So my partner and I decided to found Ginkgo Mortgage Investment.
Accumulating over decades of expertise in risk management, Ginkgo Mick has earned the trust and confidence of investors by providing sound, safe, and secured investments. Ginkgo understands that trust is always earned, never given. That is why it regularly hosts seminars, corporate events, and annual meetings to keep investors up to date on the company and market conditions.
Protecting our investor capital is our primary mission. The ginkgo tree is well known for its hardiness. It can tolerate many harsh conditions such as heat, pollution, and drought. We name our company Ginkgo because it represents our fund's sturdy and enduring nature.
The key to success in the mortgage industry is to have a constant source of trustworthy borrowers. Ginkgo Mick has been partnering with a network of more than 1,000 mortgage brokers to ensure a steady flow of business. Ginkgo's motto, fast, friendly, and flexible, is the soul of its business that have solved many mortgage brokers' financing needs. Through its state-of-the-art mobile app, Deal Tracker, mortgage brokers can monitor their deal status instantly, often finding their mortgage deals being approved in 4 hours and funded within 2 days.
As a mortgage broker, I can honestly say nothing compares working with Ginkgo team. They are always quick and responsive. I do remember that I had a client that was buying a pre-sale condo a few years ago. And by the time that she was taking possession of the property, she was in a maternity leave and got rejected for her mortgage. With the help of Ginkgo team, we were able to get her mortgage in just 2 days. Thank you, Ginkgo.
Team at Ginkgo Mick are very professional. They have a very quick turnaround time and their communication are open. I would like to say thank you, Ginkgo.
Customers tend to treat businesses the way they treat other people, holding them to certain standards and building relationships with the ones they have faith in. That's why every Ginkgo Mick staff stands behind their commitments. Whether you are looking for an investment opportunity or seeking funds for a mortgage, you can trust that Ginkgo Mick will be ready to assist you and help you realize your dreams. Ginkgo Mick, a name you can trust.
Okay, so this is a short introduction. This is, as I mentioned, is our 15 years anniversary. So we look back on this last 15 years, and I'm pretty proud that in 2024, we actually won the nationwide alternative lender #1 as a gold medal for 2024. This is actually presented by the Canadian Mortgage Professionals across Canada. We actually won this title, and which is quite an honor. And in 2025, we actually get a silver medal, and still a very highly mentioned positions, and really glad that we have achieved this achievement. In a highlight, what we are actually established in 2011. It's 15 years of track record. We actually have assets over 200 million. Right now, as it sits, it's 206 million. We have paid monthly dividend. So this is over 180 consecutive months. We have never have uninterrupted monthly dividends, which means that even the COVID, even the financial tsunami, or the volatility of the market, every month we pay a dividend. And over 70 million dividend has been paid now as of today. And this is our track record. So as you can see that mortgage investment corporation is very straightforward. Like David said, it's just an investor. Instead of going into individual mortgages, they pool the funds together and give it to Ginkgo to manage, and we invest into mortgages. And not just one house, not just two houses. So it's a pool of mortgages. We have over almost like 500 different mortgage. So this is a slightly difference from individual invest their own money to an individual mortgage. Because if you put your money into one or two mortgages, sometimes the risk will be more focused and concentrate. So our fund is actually spread. It's almost like mutual fund, but it's on mortgages. So basically, the risk is diversified across a number of houses. So this is one of the main difference. Now, we are government regulated, obvious, and we are all mortgages must be in Canada. And some people ask, do you have to have a house in, let's say, United States? Can I borrow money to get a mortgage there? No. By rules and regulations, we have to invest all our mortgages in Canada. And as you know, Canada have a much stable investment environment for mortgages, especially nowadays with the U.S. has a lot of political turmoil. So we are more stable in that sense. That's why our volatility is much lower than a stock market, a typical stock market, and ups and down. We are very stable. Our fund unit price doesn't go up, doesn't go down. Usually stay at $10, and that's it. And we provide steady cash flow. Every month we pay interest payment. On the 15th of every month, you get a notification from us, and your dividend will be directly deposited into your bank account. So it's a good way to actually get your retirement fund as a living expense, things like that, and or money that you need depends on for your rent, car lease, whatsoever. And very importantly, this is actually RRSP and TFSA eligible, so it's good for people looking for longer term investment. You can put it there for your retirement. Now, a lot of you are probably more anxious about our fund performance. Our fund performance is very stable. We actually have two series, as you can see that the blue one and also the green one. Back in 2011, we have Series 1. Series 1 is actually closed, which means that we don't accept any more new money back in 2021. At that time, we issued Series 2. So the green one is the one that you are now allowed to subscribe. The old one continues on our book, but the new one is come out here. So the Series 2 is our currently offering. And so right now, we're paying 8.5% dividend a year. We divide by 12, and this is our monthly dividend. And this is our record for the last 3 years. We have 9.9, and this is before our special dividends. So from time to time, we actually give extra on our monthly dividends. For example, in 2024, we give out a 0.75% extra dividend. So the total dividend yield at that year is actually higher than the monthly, the annual dividend rate. So this is our track record. But before, a lot of people really, anxious is to know about, how well our fund do. But that's not the most important question. As David said, the most important question people or investors should ask is really, it isn't what's the yield, right? This is only one part of it. The more important question is how is that yield being protected? How safe is my investment? That's the more important part of how much did I make, right? So it's very important. Your nest egg is your hard-earned money, and you don't want to lose it for reason that you don't know, and then you want to make sure that you have analyzing your investment property. So let me just tell you how our fund do. First of all, we look at our, David already mentioned that the mix of mortgages, first versus second mortgage, is quite different in terms of risk. So the blue one is actually our portion of first mortgage. The green one is our portion of second mortgage. So you can see that majority of our money as of like 2025 and 26 is first, as currently, actually, we have the first mortgage around 87%, and second mortgage is 12%. Some people might ask, why don't you just lend everything into first mortgage? Well, because the risk profile is different. First mortgage usually will get you a lower rate of return. A second mortgage will give you a higher rates of return. So it's a mixture of the two become a portfolio. So basically we're analyzing the portfolio and we'll have a mixture of first and second combined to generate a overall a significantly better than a bank. A bank is 100% mortgage in first positions, but their GIC rate, as David mentioned, is under 2%, right? So now if you want to make 8.5%, 9%, you need to take on some risk. So this risk is calculated. So 12% is right now the portfolio is sitting at. So this is part of it. The other things that David also mentioned is that the loan to value. As he said, the lower the loan to value, the lower the risk. The higher the loan to value, the higher the risk. So in 2025, our loan to value is 65% overall. And in 2000 and currently 2026, we actually slightly lower 65.2. As you can see that from 24, 66.72 down to 65, down to 65.2. So it kind of, we try to lower the loan to value because the market is being softened a little bit more than the last 10 years. So we try to be more careful. And this is including first and second mortgage combined already. So even though this is a second mortgage have 12% of the proportion, but still we're only at a very lower loan to value. So it's offsetting the positions for first or second because we have a lower loan to value. The other thing that we look at is the David mentioned about is the commercial versus residential. As you can see that the blue one is the residential mix and the green one is the commercial. We do have some commercial, not much, around 7%. So right now, as it stands, it's around 6.3%. The residential is around 94%. So mainly it's residential, but commercial, sometimes we do have commercial. Those are not necessarily the industrial commercial that you're thinking about. Commercial to us is more or less like a larger apartment building. Maybe it's a 5-unit small, complex. So those we classify anything that more than 4 units of residential, we classify them as commercial. So those, even though it is quote unquote commercial, but in reality it's still residential. That direction is not really industrial commercial or gas station or motel. Those are not the units. We are basically residential, but commercially the numbers are like 4 or 5 or 6 units that's become a commercial. So we have majority of them is actually in residential, and that is give you a safer buffer. Now, delinquents, this is one of the big issue, right? A lot of people ask us, say, hey, you must have a lot of delinquent loans, but our delinquent loans history is very, very low. And as of 2025, we only have 22. 2000 currently we have 21. So usually this one will take some time to sell the house and get back our money. And if you look at the record that we have since 2000, the last 10 years, since 2016, the number of delinquents is not a lot. As low as 3 units in 2019 to 2025 with 22. This is actually, it seems like that 3 units or 5 units compared to 22 is a big difference. But if you look at the total loans, basically we have double our total loans since 2019. Like this is like 481 compared to like 2018 is like 250. So it's almost like double the number of mortgages. So to double the number of mortgages, obviously we'll have higher delinquents. This is just a simple math, right? As you can see that delinquent does not mean that we lose money, just means that they are behind in the payment. So we still have the house, we still can sell the house and get back our money. And obviously, sometimes we sell the house because the house price drop, we're not able to get everything. We have losses, but our losses are very minimal. For all these years, we have less than $2 million all the 15 years of total losses, right? So this is very small per year. But if you look at our losses, majority because we have a very low loan to value, so we can sell the house and get back almost all the time all the principal. But once in a while we have maybe a bad tenants that ruin the house. We have to put money in to fix it, or you have own a lot of property tax, or there's some drop of the market that of certain pocket of the market actually drop significantly. So we do have exposure of losses. That's one thing that we need to mitigate. That is that this is how we can lower those risks. First of all, we have a lot of liquidity. So this is very important because sometimes a house that is really badly ruined might take longer to sell to get the money back. So you need cash. So we have around $80 million in line of credit that we can use anytime to invest and also to give us cash flow. So we have a very adequate liquidity in terms of giving people when they need money to redeem their funds. We have a lot of liquidity, and we also have something called provision for bad debt. As I mentioned, that we have every year we have maybe have 50, 500,000, 200,000 of losses, but we have 1.7 million of bad debt provisions, which means that with any particular year we have some losses will not will not affect your principal because we have some side reserve money set aside for that reason. And we also have something called retained earnings. These are the retained earnings that we have. It's our earnings that we have made in the past, but we have not distributed out to our investor yet. So this is our second buffer, so to speak. So in case that the 1.69 provision is not enough, we still have around $2 million in retained earnings to offset any potential losses. So that is also one of your safety nets that we have to try to reduce this risk of bad debt. Now, if one particular year or two particular years we don't have a lot of bad debts, then this retained earning can be go ahead as a special dividend and slowly paid out to our investor. That's why some of our investors see a let's say 8% dividend for the whole year, and at the end of the year you might have another 0.25 or 0.5% special dividend, and that money usually come from the retained earning that we have in the past that we don't need it for future reserve. So that is our risk to migrate our risk that we have regarding bad debt. Now, as I mentioned that 2025 we actually have a higher yield than 2026. Our current yield is 8.5, and then the Series 2 is 8. As I mentioned, Series 1 is already closed, but the people will continue to get their money and the dividend at 8.5. And Series 2 is the new subscriber now, will be at 8%. Now, this is, as I mentioned, it's a target dividend, which means that we expect that we could do dividends at 8% per year. And as a fund, we cannot say guarantee because there's no such thing as guarantee unless it's a GIC. So we can only distribute what we make as a profit. And now we can target our profit for the year of 2026 at 8%. And we don't think that that is difficult to make because we have reserve retained earning. And we also look at our books and feel that we have confidence that target 2026, the dividend can be targeted at 8%. Now, for some whatever reason, let's say the government continues to cut their interest rate. The Bank of Canada, if they cut the interest rate, every time they cut the interest rate, we have to lower our lending rate because it's really tied to each other. So every time we lower our lending rate, we get less income. And we have less income, then we can only have so much to distribute as a profit. So that could be if they have like continuous, like in 2000 and let's say 21 and 22, when they have like 6, 7, 8 consecutive interest rate cut, then we have continues to have to lower our interest rate dividend. So that is if no such thing happen, then we can target is around 8%, and this is our projection for the entire year 2026. Now, this is still 8% because our track record have been showing that 8% consistently for the last 15 years. So don't underestimate this consistent, because when you have a stable return, when you put on the power of compounding, it always work really well. So we look at our fund. Let's say that if you put 100,000, where's this 100,000 come from? This could be your room for TFSA for all this year you never use. So you have over 100,000 of TFSA room. So if you have this room you never use, and for some reason that you sell a rental and you have this money and you put into our fund and versus put it into a GIC. GIC all this year we combine it is around 2.6%. Right, this is the average of the last 15 years of GIC. But our Ginkgo return now is 8%. So if you put it into GIC for all this 15, 20, 18 years, whatever, you get around from 100,000, you get around 159,000. So it's not bad, 60% return, right? After 18 years. But if you put into Ginkgo, because it's 8% return, so if you know that the rules of 72, which means that if you divided the 72 number by the return, the result will be responsible for the time that you need to double your money. So if you 72 divided by 8% return, which is 9, which is mean that every 9 years your numbers will be double. So basically, if you put the same amount of money in Ginkgo after 9 years, your 100,000 will become 200. And then another 9 years, 18 years, then your numbers will go to around 15,000. So this is very powerful because a lot of people don't know that if you let the money rise along with the time. So like for example, if you are 30 years old, you have 100,000, then by the age you're 39, you have already like 203. And then by the age you're 47, 48, I guess this is, I put it wrong, but 48, then you'll be like 415. You go another 9 years, to be 9 years, or maybe I just type it wrong, but you know the math. So if you 39 and then go this will be 48, and then this will be go another one will be 57, that'll be 840. Then give it another one will be a 60. You add another 9 years, then 1.7, and then 9 years, around 70 years old, you have around 3.5 million. Okay, so this is from 100,000 and just compound every 9 years, So this number, we have 39, 48, 56, 62, and then 71. Then that will be your retirement fund. And then because this is a TFSA account, so if you take the TFSA account, the money draw out will be actually tax-free, right? So basically, this is your nice nest egg for your retirement. So let's say you take not 3.5, let's say it's 3 million times 8%. Let's say we pay 8%. So 3 million times 8%, 3 times 8, 24,000. So around 20,000 a month of tax-free income for you to retire, and you still have the principal there because this is 8% is generated. So how do we do this? Is by time, and then 18 years. People say that this will never happen. Our company already celebrating about 15 years of anniversary. I see my own personal money, right? I've invest day one. I invest my own personal money into Ginkgo. And I already see this happening to me because this is almost like I'm at 15 years. So 3 more years will be 18 years. So I already see my money not double. It's almost like quadruple already. So this is actually happens to people. And it's not just on paper. It's actually very doable. Okay. So this is the result of compound interest. Now, a lot of people say that it's a lock-in period. No, we don't have a lock-in period. Some funds do have lock-in period of 2 years, 3 years, whatever. No lock-in periods means that you can redeem your fund anytime. We actually pay out on the 15th. So all you have to do is just give us at least minimum 15 days before the month end, and then we'll give you the money on the 15th. So it doesn't matter. You give us the a month ago. You just let us know. So on the following month, the 15th, then you get your money. So this is no waiting time, no lock-in period. You can get your money anytime. However, there is a redemption charge because we do need to have costs involved. So if you redeem your money within the first year, it's a 2% charge. And the first year, if you redeem it within the second year, which means that you will have 1% charge. And then the third year onwards to be zero. So we don't want the people like go in the stock market and take our fund and look like you're trading stock market, come in 1 month and take away, withdraw another month, and that will create a lot of uncertainty on our fund. So we have to have some sort of charges to service the in and out of the money. So if you redeem your fund within your first year, we'll charge you 2%. If you within the second year, we'll charge you 1%. So after that, there will be no charge. This is still a very decent charge. It's not over excessive, and at least because we gave you, let's say, 8% minus 2%, you still have 6% compared to the bank, where you're still ahead of the time. So that is the highlight of our fund. We do have a website if you're interested more on our fund. So we do have a website. It's just basically called Ginkgo Make. And if you go to our www.ginkgomic.com, and that in that fund, in that website, you actually have a lot more information about our company. And we are actually posted a lot of our the company information on our website, and you get a lot of idea about our company. Now, if you're interested in buying it, our fund, or investing in our fund, we are issuer, so we cannot sell it to you directly because that will be kind of a conflict of interest. So we usually rely on our partner, our EMD, dealer reps, like the Edward and then David, and then they will be the actually help you to understand our fund profile more, to explain to you a little bit more about the risk that you may face, and also the return, and make sure that your investment objective is meeting our fund, investment philosophy, and that will be like a win-win situation. So David and Ed can definitely help you to understand our fund more, and that hopefully, you will get a chance to know us, and you can invest your retirement fund with us. So that is my sessions, and hope that I'll give you some food for thought, and you can consider investing into mortgages. Thank you, David.
Thank you very much, Henry. Can you hear me okay, by the way?
Yes, yes.
Okay, great. So just a question and an observation. First of all, when you were talking about the loan to value, you mentioned 65% as being your approximate loan to value. That's a coincidence or not, but it's a good conservative number if you're a private lender. So I really like that about Ginkgo, is it's conservative. That's important for long-term success, number one. And number two, I noticed quite a bit of growth in the last, I guess, 3 or 4 years, close to double your volume. I'm wondering, to what would you attribute that to? Is the market changing, or have you geared up your sales efforts? What would you attribute that significant growth to?
Oh, the growth of the last 3-4 years is actually the partner of the major bank. The bank really like us because we are doing the business that similar to them, but on the like they understand our business model very very simple, because we're almost like a private bank. So they actually give us a lot of money to invest into us. So that's the major reason that we grow the last 4 years. So for example, we have 80 million line of credit they invest into us. And then because they know that, we are doing a similar business, and our risk profile is so much, to them, is even lower for their own portfolio. Because they invest into us, we use our entire portfolio to secure a portion of the loan. So they feel very comfortable investing into us. So the last 4 years, mainly is the bank, the trust of the bank, the major bank. It's not just one. We actually have 3 major banks working with us, and they all want to put money in us. That's a good sign, right? That we're doing
Great.
something. Yeah, we're doing something well.
That's really great. Okay, I'm just gonna. I was streaming this on my Facebook. I'm gonna escape that so I can go back into it. Hopefully, I don't lose everybody. I just want to say before I do that, just to make sure, people, if I'll get back to the Zoom and we can see if there's any other questions. But if you would like to talk about your investment portfolio and the potential to invest in mortgages through Ginkgo and some of our other products that we have on our shelf at Waverly, please contact myself and or Edward, and we will be happy to talk to you. It is that time of year, RSP season. The deadline is approaching soon, so now is the time to make a move if you want to do something with your portfolio. Okay.
Any questions?
I cannot see. So are you guys able to see if there's anything in the comments, questions? Henry,
No, I think that no, I didn't see any questions. I think
you
that's
don't see any questions? All
yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Okay, well then thank you very much Henry and Edward for being on the Zoom tonight. We really appreciate it. Continued success, and hope you have a great RSP season and a great year, and we'll keep in touch.
Okay, I'll just type the my Ginkgo website there. It's ginkgomake.com. So if somebody is interested in going to it, so you can cut and paste it to your browser, and you'll see more information about company. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, thanks so much. Very much, Henry. Thank you. Thanks,
Thank you.
Edward.
Thank you, Dave.
Thanks, everyone.
Ed.
Good night, guys.
Good night. Bye-bye.
Bye.